Hello everyone, this is Adam and welcome to the third portion of the introductory part of the series called 3-Minute Theology. And today we will be discussing the power of analogy. Analogous language, or analogy, is a form of dialectic discourse, but I thought it deserves a special mention because it involves precisely our language of God, the words and phrases we use whenever we talk about God. Because language is directly related to the human brain, the limitations of the human brain also apply to human language. Our language is completely insufficient when it comes to talking about God. We cannot talk fully about God in human words. We stumble. Now, what is analogy? Let me give you an example. We can say that God sees us. We believe that God can see us. But saying God sees us isn't sufficient. There's more to it than just what we say. How? When we say that God sees us, what do we mean by that? Does that mean that God has a pair of eyeballs or pupils and nerve connections that lead to the brain where information about what he sees is being processed? When we say that God sees us, do we mean to say that he sees us the same way that human beings see things? No, God doesn't have eyeballs or pupils the same way that we do. When we say God sees us, we express some truth about the reality that our God who created us can see us. But the word see is totally inadequate when we describe what we actually mean when we apply the word to God. There is some seed of truth in it, but it is not entirely it. Same thing when we say that God hears us or God loves us. He hears and loves us almost the same way as human being hears and loves somebody else, but there's more to it. There's infinitely more to it. Infinitely more. Yes, he does. But there's more to it. Do you see the tension? The dialectic? The same applies to metaphorical language. When we say that God is a rock, for example, do we mean to say that God is an inanimate object with rough edges that is a product of earth processes? No. We mean to say that God is like sturdy as a rock or strong as a rock. We attribute to God the strength of a rock, but not the strength purely on our own understanding of the word strength. God is both those words and beyond those words. Dialectic. It is a good thing to remember whenever we describe God or talk about God that our language is both true and not true about Him, in the sense that it is both what we say and what we can't say about Him. With analogy, we recognize that our human language is not literally true about God, though it expresses some truth about Him, and analogy also reassures us that language about God is possible, even for our limited human minds and language. That's the power of analogy. This concludes the 3-part introductory videos of this channel, and hopefully we can remember all of these as time goes by because we will be referring back to these concepts every now and then. So next week we will actually dive into the fun part of the series where we begin to answer the big questions. So for our next video, we will try to answer the question, does God exist? See you next!